My name's Kris Krohn, and this weirdo has come to the top of the mountain to learn from me on how you can make $1 million in 5 years. Okay, so Stephen, we got this question. How can I realistically make $1 million in 5 years?
You can't.
Nope, you
No,
can't.
it's not possible. Sorry, won't happen.
JK.
Sorry.
No, you can't.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, it's possible.
All right.
I know, I did it.
Okay.
Did it.
Well,
I'm still doing it.
let's.
It's possible. Le possible. So,
is that French?
That's
good.
Can you really make $1 million in 5 years?
Yeah.
Sure. Can you also not make $1 million in 5 years?
Sure.
Sure. What you'd really need is a game
Plan.
And if you have a game
Plan.
It's possible because with a
Game.
plan, you can do
Anything
that you
want.
So let's get you guys a game plan.
Yes. No, let's talk about this. I mean, because this is a serious question from a lot of people is how do I accelerate, really what you're saying, right? Forget about the number. But what you're really saying is how can I make the most money in the shortest amount of time?
And right? I got to acknowledge that I get the society's calling you cray-cray right now. It's like, what are you doing thinking that you can make $1 million in 5 years? Don't you know you go to college, you get a job, you work there for 40 years, and you get your $44,000 a year average income, and then you're only going to save 10% of that. So if you're getting ahead $4,000 every year, compound that times 5 years, $25,000, woo! Yeah, you don't get anywhere with society's game plan. You got to listen. We're not telling you to fight society. We're just telling you to go outside of society's traditional thinking and game plan. If you want to make $1 million in 5 years, your plan needs to include doing something different than what society is recommending for you, which is why we love to talk about
different isn't always better. Better is always different.
AKA real estate. So, real estate is honestly where we love to play. It's where we have fun, and I want to just share with you some ideas of what you can do. I remember I had this, one of my first mentors that taught me how to count to $1 million. He said, okay, Kris, one home, if you're making $100,000 per home, let's just say, by the way, most of my homes I haven't made $100,000, but I have, this year I sold 2 homes where I made over $100,000 on each one.
Yeah.
So he said, if you just focused on making $100,000 per home, how many would you need to make $1 million? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $1 million.
What?
Ready?
Yes.
8, 9, $1 million. You might not make $100,000 on every home, but I know you can count to 10. If you're making $50,000 on every home, then you only need to do 20 homes. Like that's a number you can count to. You don't have to sell 1 million widgets and make $1 on each one. It'll take you freaking forever. You might never get it done. Real estate is the largest commodity, so if you really wanted to make $1 million in 5 years, you should study the art form of doing real estate successfully. You should look at how to do it with the least risk, and if you can play that game right in a 5-year period of time, can you do it? Yeah, you totally can.
Yeah, I also want to talk about how it depends. I mean, it really depends on where you're starting, what your skill level is, what your confidence level is, what kind of assets you have. If you're starting with 0 and you have no skills and you have no ability right now, help! Then it's going to take some learning. It's going to take some training, and give yourself that time. We're such an impatient people.
I know.
Right?
We want it all tomorrow.
We want
we're not going to
everything yesterday, and right now. But the reality is we've got to be willing to grow. We've got to be willing to learn. Getting mentors and people that have been there and done that can help you along the way is absolutely a really great way that you can accelerate that process.
Steven's absolutely right. So I look at just my very first home, just to give you an example here. So I bought a house that was worth $150,000. And I bought it for $110,000. So I had $40,000 on my very first house, plus a basement that I could rent to help pay the mortgage. When I bought that house, just for a moment, think about $40,000 in relation to $1 million. Yeah. That's a huge step of the way. Yeah. And yet I bought that as a home that I was also living in, so I got a 3% FHA first-time home buyer's exception, which meant I brought $3,500 to the table and immediately traded it for 10 times that value in equity. And I actually owned that home, Stephen, for about 4 years. Yeah. And during that period of time, I lived in it for 2 years, and the 2 years I didn't, I lease optioned it. Someone gave me $5,000 up front. I was earning over $500 a month, well over $500 a month positive cash flow on it. By the time I sold it, I made about $65,000. Yeah. Now, $65,000 is not $1 million, but if you did that same thing 18 more times, then you'd have $1 million.
There you are.
And that's what I found to be true is that you got to pick your deals carefully. I think of Buffett. Buffett, one of the best pieces of advice he gave is at this financial summit, and he's talking to all of these pro investors, and he says, if I could give you this advice, it would be this. You can't afford to screw up. You can't afford to lose. So if you could only punch 20 investments into your dance card in the course of your life, pick wisely the best. You can't afford to be too conservative because you'll never get to $1 million. You can't afford to bank it all and go completely wild because you might lose everything. But real estate done correctly, here's what you got to focus on. One is you got to focus on a system because we have already determined that you need to do maybe 20 homes or 15 homes to make $1 million.
You need to systematize that.
Yeah, because if you're instead of rolling the dice and hoping to get a Yahtzee 18 times in a row, that's impossible. What is possible is saying, all right, I don't want to do a flip today and a short sale tomorrow, and then a HUD home, and then a flip, and then a rental, and then an apartment. You're going to be the master of nothing. That's way too much risk. The idea of a system means that you're doing it the same way every time. Because that first house, Stephen, when I made that 65 grand, what I did is I walked away and I said, wow, I can do that again.
I can do that one more time.
Yeah, and then I did it again,
Yep.
and then I did it again, and I did it again, and 4.5 years later, I had a $1.6 million net worth, and I had done it 25 times. So this is something you can learn to do, but Stephen's right. You need a system. We believe it's real estate, and then you need to have the right mentors. Because if you're going at it alone, lone wolfing it, you're going, because this is the way we're trained to be. You're like, I'll read a book and then I'll make $1 million. Don't do that. Book's going to give you ideas and concepts. You need a system and a team that can actually help you create the duplicatable, predictable results. And Stephen, if someone's looking for a mentor, should they pick someone who's done it 1 time, 10 times, or 1,000?
1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like going to a doctor who's brand new out of college and saying, "Hey, come operate."
Dude, I'm always nervous when I go to the doctor that looks like he's like Doogie Howser.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like 15 years
and
old.
I'll ask them like, so how long have you been a doctor? And then once in a while they're like, 3 years. And I'm like,
Yeah, no,
can I get a second opinion?
You want a doctor who's done that specific surgery hundreds of times, right?
Yeah.
You want they want to be skilled. They don't want to know how to do it. Same thing with real estate, right? You want to go with someone who's been there, who's done that, who has the T-shirt.
So let's put it all together. A T-shirt?
Yeah,
It's
been there, done that, got the T-shirt.
Awesome, I got it. I like it. So here's the deal. This is what we've shared with you. You want to make $1 million in 5 years? These are the elements you need to find. It's like a little bit of a scavenger hunt unless you use our system where we pull it all together. Number 1, real estate. Why? It's the biggest commodity where it's possible to make 50 to 100 grand on a home done correctly. Number 2, you're looking for a system. System means it's duplicatable, predictable, and you can do it over and over again. You only need to do it once successfully according to a system, and then you do it as many times as possible. And number 3, you got to do your 20 homes in what period of time? 5 years. And then number 4 and final is that instead of going it alone, you should look for a partner, a mentor, someone that has been there and done it many, many times and has a T-shirt. If you can find someone, I wish someone like that existed.
Where?
Who? Listen, we're not saying you have to work with us. You can, frankly, we're just telling you that those are the elements that you need to look for. Those are the ones that we looked for when we started this game. And now in the last 10 years, having done, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate, what we've learned from that is that, frankly, those 4 things that we've just given you, that's what's going to give you a shot. But I want to give you the last little bit of bonus here.
Good, like bonuses.
Stephen, there's a lot of people that are like, we'll tell them what it is. We'll tell them how to get there. But the reality is there's one thing that will make the difference on whether it happens. Dude, you're either a YouTube subscriber that watches or you're a YouTube action taker. And in life, execution is everything. Those that execute have a chance of getting what they want. And those that sit back and just watch more videos usually don't. So our advice is whatever you do, look for those 4 elements. And then if you're going to go for it, take action and go for it.
Absolutely.
And that, my friends, is how the cookie crumbles. The cat's in the kitchen, meow.
Cookie crisp.
So make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, and if you want to check out how you can get a little kooky with us in the game of real estate, check the description and the link below.